All right, ladies and gentlemen, here is some advice on rewriting your essays, things that you need to focus on in two quick videos of 5 minutes each. Major nagging issues with the essays for both the juniors and the seniors include ineffective thesis statements. Many students are still writing thesis statements that use the passive voice, thereby weakening the argument because there is no one to make an argument when you use the passive voice. And then the overall issue of a lack of argument. These two issues are directly connected. If you use the passive voice, it is very likely that your argument will be weak. The other major issue that I want to focus on is the clunky inclusion of historiography. Many people are writing an introduction, a body paragraph about some stuff, a second body paragraph about some stuff, and then all of a sudden the third body paragraph that lists the Marxist view, the analyst view, the Whig view, the great men view, but doesn't incorporate those views with any sense into the rest of their essay or their overall argument. Another issue is hyperbole, the use of hyperbole in extreme statements, but we'll come back to that later. I want to focus on the other two first. So, starting with ineffective thesis statements. Here are a couple of examples, anonymous examples, but real examples from students of weak thesis statements. Number one, the Korean War can be considered both a limited and total war. Well, the Korean War can be considered to be a suspension bridge and a penguin. However, that is obviously not an effective argument, and you have not taken a stance on the issue. What was the Korean War to your thinking? In your opinion, what do you think it was, and how can you unify this into an argumentative thesis? This is what we're trying to do here. Very similar, it is possible to note that the Great Depression, not the Greatest Depression, and the Cold War played large roles in the relationship between the US and Cuba. Same thing. Baseball. It is possible to note that baseball has played a large role in the relationship between the US and Cuba, but I haven't made an argument, and obviously that's not the way to do it. What are the major issues here? Like I said, the use of the passive voice steals the ability to make an argument. It can be. What is it? Say what it is. In your opinion, based on research and evidence, what is it? If it can be, and it is possible, just say it, like we said. Now, this doesn't require statements like, I believe that this is true, or in my essay, I will show, or this essay will use blah and blah to prove blah. Many of the seniors incorporated statements like that. I think they're still recovering from their extended essays. Use the active voice to express exactly what you think and make an argument. And the easiest way to do this, replace those conditional verbs of possibility with active verbs that offer an argument. So, for example, the Korean War can be considered both a limited and total war becomes, in reality, the Korean War was both a limited war and a total war. Was rather than can be. It is possible to note that the Great Depression, etc., becomes no other events shaped the relationship between the US and Cuba to the extent that the Great Depression and the Cold War did. Now, the first corrected example takes a firm stance, but this corrected example not only takes a firm stance, but still allows for the debate. The phrase to the extent says that other things were still important, obviously, but these were the two most important. There is hope in this tunnel, at the end of this tunnel. Guy Chen wrote a pretty clear and good thesis statement. Both the Russo-Japanese War and World War II shifted the balance of power during the 20th century, doing so through key naval warfare tactics. He's not equivocating. He's not going back and forth. He takes a position, and now he's going to argue it. It's very clear. Will he prove this today? Probably not, but that's not the point. It's part of a discussion. It's a debate, and Guy is clearly taking a position in that debate. Gabriela Gugelmin has also created, this is a very sophisticated thesis actually. Thus, the Great Depression allowed both Cuba and Brazil to develop internally, becoming less susceptible to the influence of the United States. However, in the Cold War context, while Cuba was successful in migrating toward communism, Brazil remained aligned with the US, which had negative economic impacts for the country. If you look at the underlined statements, you can see that Gabriela is comparing with both. She's talking about changing over time with becoming. However, it goes back to the comparison because now we're talking about the differences. While is a key word there as well. And then at the end, negative economic impacts for the country shows the consequences of a cause and effect process. This is a very strong thesis. Please think about Guy's example, Gabriela's example, as you create or recreate your own thesis statements. Try to make them look more like this. Good luck.